Okay. I want to talk to you about the vagus nerve because I think that another important thing that we want to know is how do we stimulate our own vagus nerve? And there's new research on something called polyvagal theory that I'm super fascinated by. I'm super excited about it. And I think polyvagal theory has a little bit of insight for us as well as to what we should be doing during this time of Corona. So first, I want to introduce you to your vagus nerve. The word vague and Vegas go together. The reason we use the word Vegas is not just Las Vegas, but Vegas meant vague, wandering nerve. And it's often referred to as our Buddha nerve because it is the primary nerve that is used when we, that gets activated when we are doing things like meditation. And one of the things I want to really highlight about the vagus nerve, and so here we go. Imagine that these are the eyes, right? Here's the brain. This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. I'm just kidding. Here's our brain. And this whole system, this is the vagus nerve. And notice it innervates in the throat. It also has a front side and a back side. We're going to talk about the difference between a front side and the back side in a moment. But it innervates through our throat, through our heart, through our lungs, into our digestive system, and into our reproductive organs. That's why it's called the vague nerve. It's the wandering nerve. And we know that when we are relaxed, when we are doing breathing exercises, when we're taking a bath, when we are cuddling, when we are stimulating our vagus nerve, we are inducing the relaxation response. And we know that most of the parasympathetic fibers of the vagus nerve are actually in our belly. And this is why when kids get stressed out, they often go to the nurse because they have an upset tummy, but they don't have anything wrong with their tummy. They didn't eat something that was bad for them. They just got stressed out, right? Because when our brake pedal gets turned off and our gas pedal gets put on, we get stress. So stimulation of the vagus nerve, something that is referred to as vagal tone. So vagal tone is a measure of how strong or how toned is your vagus nerve. People who have a strong vagus nerve means you have a vagus nerve that's really strong and hold on just 1 second. I just have to text one of my team members. 1 second. Can you call Chrissy from EPPC? I have a call with her right now, but I'm still on this webinar. I'm still leading this webinar, which is now on to hour 3. Okay, so the vagus nerve, it's equivalent when we have high vagal tone, you've got good brake pads on your car. You guys know that feeling when your brake pads have worn out on your car and you're driving and not only is it squeaking as you're trying to stop the car, but it's like takes a long time to slow down, right? Anybody ever let their brake pads, be honest, go that bad? Okay, I'm not the only one who forgot to get her brake pads replaced in my car. Thank you. When we have high vagal tone, we've got good brake pads, very receptive brake pads in our car that we're able to hit the brake button and our car comes to a standstill. When you have low vagal tone, meaning you don't have a very toned or strong, you don't have a very strong vagus nerve, it's like you're hitting the brake and it's not quite, it takes a while. It takes a while. So the more we do relaxation practices, the more we strengthen this nerve's tonality. And we can actually measure that numerically. You can actually measure heart rate variability as a number and see heart rate variability go up as people spend more time doing breath practices, as they spend more time doing things that work their nervous system to be more resilient. You also can bring energy into your vagus nerve. You can stroke your throat. My friend Lee Waters and I were out to dinner once and she was talking about something that was making her stressful and she's like, stroke my vagus, stroke my vagus, stroke my vagus. And I was like, oh yeah, duh. When we bring our attention to our throat, we are self-soothing. That's why one of the nonverbal cues for submission is actually hand to neck. If you're out on a date, it's very flirtatious. It's flirtatious because it's a very sensitive area. When we show our neck, it can be very sexy, very sensual. When we're scared, we usually cover our neck up like this. It's because it's a form of self-soothing. Bringing energy into your heart, bringing energy into your tummy, doing deep breathing, deep abdominal breathing is bringing energy into your vagus nerve, visualizing your belly being warm, relaxing into your abdomen, stimulates that parasympathetic response, which is really important for being able to calm the body down. So all the things that we do to create a greater sense of relaxation is going to help us be more resilient. And last thing I want to talk about is the concept of having not just one vagus nerve. Poly means multiple, or multiple theories around the concept of the vagus nerve. So Polyvagal Theory, that was created by Dr. Porges, goes like this. He points out that we have evolutions of our stress response, and that the vagus nerve has a ventral and a dorsal vagal complex. So ventral means to the front and dorsal means to the back. What he has identified is that during very, very, very stressful situations, the first response is not a sympathetic response. It's actually a parasympathetic response. It's the freeze response. It's the roll over and play dead. So when stress is really high, we know that we have a passive defense system that involves our dorsal vagal complex that actually immobilizes us. And this was a defense system that is biologically wired within us, that we learn, or when we believe that something is so scary, we are wired to actually want to roll over and play dead. Then, if it's not so scary that you have to roll over and just freeze and play dead, then the sympathetic nervous system kicks in, and that is trying to mobilize us to fight or flight and have an aggressive defense system. And once we are no longer doing that, then we can activate the ventral vagal complex across the front. And this is a signaling system for motion, emotion, and communication. The vagus nerve during stress invites us to tend and befriend. And this is really an important concept because we hear so much around how stress causes us to want to fight or flight. And yes, that's absolutely true, that stress can cause us to feel like we want to run away from the situation or we want to fight back. However, it's important to know that stress has two different types of responses. And according to polyvagal theory, we're actually talking about it as three. One is freeze. The other one is fight flight. And the other is tend and befriend. And when we are tending and befriending, we are activating that frontal vagal response. We have a system that makes us want to communicate, connect, reach out, touch someone. And so the way that I see this is, what are we supposed to do during a time of corona? Is recognize that we have a part of us that is just going to want to run away and hide from the situation. We're wired to have a part of us that may actually want to give up and may want to abort mission. And I might trigger some people when I say this, but earlier I mentioned Dr. Lorna Breen, who took her own life because a part of her did not want to be on this planet dealing with what we're dealing with. My heart breaks for her family, but my heart breaks for her family. And I believe that every soul has the right to choose whether or not they stay or they go. And I honor that we are biologically wired that if the stress is so high, we have to know that it's normal for a part of us to want to freeze. But that is not where we want to stay. And so what this tells us is, what do we do with the trauma? You got to get yourself active. You got to get yourself doing something. This could be going out for a walk. This could be fighting back. This could be making masks. This could be calling your friends, forming an online study group, whatever it might be. We have to use the stress that we're experiencing in a useful way. And once we do that, we pass through using up those stress chemicals. We need to tend and befriend. We need to laugh. We need to connect. We need to be together. We need to remind ourselves that we as a community are going to get through this. We're not going to get through this on our own, nor are we supposed to. And so that's the way that he describes the polyvagal theory, is this understanding that there's three different systems within here. And that the first one, this freeze response, we look at how much arousal increases, that the first response can make us freeze, the other is fight or flight. And then we need social engagement. And when we're engaging, we're present, when we're grounded, when we're joyful, when we're curious, when we're compassionate, when we're mindful, we are waking up that we're using our ventral vagus nerve, which we want to be activating.